So this is about the time that I almost got arrested for sneaking into an abandoned hospital. So about an hour away from where I live, there's this abandoned hospital, and me and 3 other friends had went there previously to do a little photo shoot, but it wasn't until another night that we decided that there was still spots that we hadn't explored in there yet. So we picked up another friend and we stopped by a store and we grabbed some flashlights and drove an hour out to the abandoned house. Pretty much the entire area surrounding the hospital is abandoned too. So there's a bunch of broken down neighborhood houses, a school, a gym, a church, all just eerily gone. So we pulled into the parking lot and got out and got all of our stuff ready to explore. And this time we were able to check out the entire thing. Here's a picture of what it looks like during the day. So you can only imagine what this looked like at night. And the whole time we felt like we were being watched. During this, 2 very intoxicated men show up and they ask if they could join us with our exploring. They were kind of cute, so we said yes. But that's when we saw flashing lights from outside the building. The cops showed up and blocked the entrance, so we knew we were gonna have to make an escape. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Storytime part 2. I almost got arrested after sneaking into an abandoned hospital. As soon as we realized the cops showed up, we tried to make it to the center of the building. 2 of my friends and I were somehow able to make it across the entire hospital and find a back entrance where we were able to hide out for a little bit. We started to work our way around the building to try to get to our car in the front, but as we did that, a cop started walking by, so we had to hide and duck in the grass and trees. We had to get across the street and go through another patch of dirt in order to get back to my car. But the thing is, 2 of my other friends were still inside, with the intoxicated boys. They ended up falling through a hole in the floor and falling down on top of each other in a pile of broken glass and parts of the building. This was like the bottom basement. Somehow they were still able to make it out of there by using the stairs that were completely messed up. By the time that they had gotten out, the cops had went to another part of the broken down town. So as we were approaching the car, they were running out of the building. We all hop into the car and catch up on what happened. The 2 girls from inside the building had really bad glass injuries, so we immediately went to the gas station to get first aid.
So just want to know what others here think. My sister is 25 and was going to meet her dad, who was not my dad, for the first time in almost 18 or 19 years, and she was really nervous. She asked me to go with her for support. He was staying at some hotel about 30 minutes away, and the whole ride over there, my sister had my phone to give me directions. My wife was calling me because she'd gone into labor. Then my mother-in-law was calling me too. My sister put my phone on Do Not Disturb without me knowing and erased the notifications. I didn't even realize it until after we were leaving from having lunch with him an hour and a half later that she'd been calling me. All my sister told me was that I had a missed call. When I found out, I was yelling at her the whole ride to the hospital. Her only excuse was that this was a big emotional moment for her meeting her dad and she was scared doing it alone knowing how her anxiety is. This was the only time they'd have to see each other since he was leaving in a few days and wouldn't be back for months. I really couldn't believe it.
Today's my niece's birthday and she just went to college, so I thought I'd get her a laptop for her birthday. Now, I'm a student myself, but I still want to give her something special, so I searched for a great used laptop and I found a decent Toshiba. I sold my PSP and some other things so I can afford it. So there we were at the dinner table opening presents, and she opened mine and had this grim look on her face. This is it? I thought you'd buy me a brand new one. No, I can't afford it. It's the best I can do. Well, I want a brand new one, not this. This sucks. Worst present ever. She then shoved the laptop and box across the table and it fell on the floor. I picked it up and walked out, and my cousin tried to stop me, but I just said I would never give her anything ever again. She even had the nerve to call back and ask for the laptop.
Storytime. I was kidnapped by someone that I thought was a friend. So I was in desperate need of a girls trip, so I hit up my 3 friends that were outside of my state, Maggie, Sarah, and Amber. All fake names, obviously. I made plans and arrangements so that I could come visit them. Another friend of mine that knew them offered to drive me down. His name was Max. I was super thankful for this because my family didn't want me to drive there by myself. I made sure they had his and my number before I took off. But the second that I got into the car, I had a really weird gut feeling. My stomach started to turn, but I didn't listen to it. I kept messaging my friends how excited I was to see them the closer I got, but then they just stopped messaging me. They wouldn't answer my calls either, and Max pulled me over to a gas station saying that we're about 30 minutes away from our destination. So I thought. I needed a bathroom break, so I went inside the gas station, but that's when Max took me by the arm and walked in with me. He wouldn't let me leave his side, even for a bathroom break, and that's when he took my cell phone away and I knew that I was in trouble. I still didn't say anything out of fear, but after we got back into the car, he gave me some juice and then I passed out. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Storytime part 2, I was kidnapped by someone I thought was my friend. So after drinking whatever he gave me, I woke up after a few hours, and I was not with my girlfriends. I was 3 hours away from my home, and I didn't know this at the time, but I was at his house. My family knew that they hadn't heard from me in hours and started to get worried. They tried to get a hold of me, but obviously couldn't because I didn't have my cell phone. So they called Max. And I literally watched this man answer his phone and say that he didn't know me and doesn't know what they're talking about. Almost immediately after this happened, the cops called him. And I have no idea to this day what the cops said to him, but whatever they did, it worked. He helped bring me back to my house safely. And come to find out, Sarah, Amber, and Maggie were all in on it. They knew that he was obsessed with me and planned it so that I would spend the weekend with him instead of them. We pressed charges, but he really only got a slap on the wrist, but he's not allowed within 50 feet of me or to live in the same town or city as I am. Even though this happened when I was 18, it still haunts me at 28. Please speak up if you feel like something is wrong.
This girl who used to bully me DM'd me on Instagram. We are going to call her Emma. Emma DMs me and she's like, hey, we should meet up at Starbucks. I want to catch up. I want to tell you stuff. I was like, okay, let's do it. But the day comes when we're meeting up. So obviously I took an Uber there. I was gonna be a little late, so I called Emma and I was like, hey, my Uber's taking long. Can you please get my drink so we can talk more and I'll pay you back? And so she said she would, so it was cool. I get to Starbucks. So me and Emma are drinking our drink and then I start feeling very sick to the point where I was fainting and throwing up really bad. So I went to the bathroom and this lady followed me into the bathroom and told me that the girl that I was with, Emma, put a pill in my drink and I was gonna go confront Emma about it, and by the time I went back, she had ran away. So I end up calling an Uber to go home because I was not feeling well at all. Like, I was dying. The Uber comes and guess who is in the Uber? Emma! She locks the doors immediately. So I get in the Uber and I did not see Emma at first, but then she popped up right after I put my seatbelt and we went on the road. Emma then locked all the doors, broke my phone. I couldn't really do anything because at this point I was really, really weak from what she had put in my drink, and started spraying me with pepper spray, which hurt really bad. At this point, I'm basically weak. I'm like fainting every second and I have pepper spray everywhere. I don't have my phone. And Emma starts laughing at me. This is the best part. So she ends up dropping me off at an alley in the middle of nowhere that was like 2 hours from my house. I found this out because someone ended up driving by the alley and they asked me if I needed help, and then they helped me and I contacted my parents and the police. Obviously the police got Emma, but I am not allowed to say more about Emma other than this story. But yeah, don't meet up with your bullies, or at least the crazy ones.
The time I lost my baby sister. So when I was 11 years old, me and my family lived in an apartment complex. And in the complex, we had a playground where me and my sister would go play at every day after school. My little sister at the time was 3 years old. My mom would let me and my sister go play at the playground by ourselves. She would just tell me to keep my eyes on her and not to talk to strangers. So we were playing at the playground and these two little boys came to the playground and started playing with us. So we were playing and then one of the kids asked if we could play hide and seek. So at first I was like no, but my little sister wanted to play. She even started crying. So I agreed and one of the boys said he'll count and for us to hide. So me and my sister went to hide behind the slide and we ended up being found. Then it was my time to count, so my sister and the two boys hid. When I was done counting, I went to look for my sister and the two boys. I ended up finding the two boys, but I couldn't find my sister. Stay tuned for part 2. Part 2 on how I lost my baby sister. So I ended up searching for her at least 10 minutes. Then the boys started to help me look. I started to get nervous because my sister was only 3 years old at the time. I started to look outside the playground around the apartment complex, and as I'm looking for her, I'm calling out her name to see if she would answer. Then I went back to the playground with the two boys, and I just started crying and praying to God that nothing bad would happen to her. As I was praying, I felt a tap on my shoulder, and when I looked behind me, it was my little sister smiling at me. And she was like, haha, you couldn't find me, so I win. And I was so happy to see her. I asked her where was she hiding, and she said inside the slide. I thank God that I found her because that could have been tragic.